students, welcome back. Today we will be learning another new unit that is from a history section entitled Political Development. In this unit, we will be learning about the Gupta Empire and its administration. We will be also learning about Harshavardhana and the Pallavas along with the Chalukyas. So now let us proceed with the class. After centuries of political instability in the post-Mauryan period, on the ruins of the Kushana kingdom arose a new empire. The empire was established in 319 CE under the Guptas. Nothing much is known about their origin and their original home, but most likely they were initially a family of landowners who acquired political control in the region of Magadha. The Gupta Empire was not as large as the Mauryan Empire, but it kept North India politically united for more than a century, from 335 CE to 455 CE. The Guptas were possibly feudatories, meaning a person who holds land under the condition of the feudal system. So they were basically the feudatories of the Kushanas in Uttar Pradesh, and possibly they succeeded them without any considerable time difference. We may so conclude based on the archaeological sources which have been uncovered from UP and Bihar. In many cases, the Kushana antiquities were immediately followed by the Gupta antiquities. Therefore, it is evident that the Gupta took over the Kushanas. Antiquities means object or building of work of art from the ancient past. The original kingdom of the Guptas conspired UP and Bihar at the end of the 3rd century CE. They had the center of power at Prayag, from where they spread to the neighboring regions. Owing to their location in this region, they enjoyed certain material advantages. They could exploit the iron ores of central India and South Bihar. Regionally, they were located in close vicinity to the areas in North India that had close trade links with the Byzantine Empire. Here, Byzantine Empire meaning the Roman Empire. Chandragupta I. The Gupta Empire started out as a small kingdom in Magadha in 4th century CE. It was founded by Sri Gupta. Chandragupta I came to the throne in 319 CE and expanded the kingdom. He married a Licchavi princess, Kumma Devi. The Licchavis around this time were ruling in certain parts of Nepal. However, Chandragupta confined his rule to Magadha and parts of eastern UP. He assumed the title of Maharaja Dhiraja. Samudragupta. Chandragupta was succeeded by his son Samudragupta, meaning that Samudragupta took over the empire after his father Chandragupta. He is one of the greatest rulers of ancient India. The Allahabad pillar inscription, composed by the court poet Harisena, gives a detailed information of his achievements. Here in the picture in the right side, you can see the inscription. That is the Allahabad pillar inscription. Here, all his achievements from his battles are all written here in the pillar. During his reign, the Gupta Empire extended from Allahabad to the borders of Bengal. He defeated 12 kings of South India. Several kings of North India were uprooted and their territories added to the Gupta Empire. Many kings accepted his power and paid him tribute. The prestige and influence of Samudragupta spread even outside India. He was not only a powerful military commander, but was also a great lover of poetry and music. Chandragupta II. Chandragupta II succeeded Samudragupta. He is reputed to have shown exceptional chivalrous and heroic qualities. He extended the empire through matrimonial alliances, meaning through marriage, and also his conquests from different battles. He married his daughter Parvati to a Vakataka prince from central India. The prince died early and was succeeded by his young son. Parvati thus became the virtual ruler, so Chandragupta II exercised direct control over Vakataka kingdom in central India, here meaning that his daughter's husband died and therefore the young son was very young to take over the country. Therefore, Chandragupta II took over the country because he exercised direct control over the kingdom. Chandragupta II adopted the title of Vikramaditya. His court was adorned by 9 scholars who were called Navaratnas. The Navaratnas included the famous poet Kalidasa, the Sanskrit grammarian Amara Simha, astronomer Varaha Mihira, and physician Dhanvantari. It was during his reign that the Chinese pilgrim Fa Sing visited India and wrote an elaborate account of the life of people in India. Chinese pilgrim Fa Sing informs us that Magadha had many rich people who believed in and supported charitable offerings. In ancient India, the Guptas issued the largest number of gold coins known as dinaras. An important development that took place during the Gupta period was the system of land grants. Under the system, administrators and high officials were given lands in lieu of money, in exchange of money. Large-scale land grants were also made to the Brahmanas. The castes were benefited and they were divided into numerous subcastes. Apart from this, there was large-scale absorption of tribals into the society through the process of land grants. The position of Shudras improved, though the number of untouchables increased. He also mentioned the existence of a group of people called Chandalas. Buddhism ceased to receive royal patronage during the Gupta Empire. Instead, Bhagavatism, marked by bhakti and ahimsa, was most followed, but the Gupta kings followed a policy of religious tolerance towards different sects. Gupta administration. The Gupta kings took up titles such as Parameshwara, Maharaja Dhiraja, and Prambhataraka. This meant that they ruled over many lesser kings. Kingship was hereditary. The Gupta kings made magnificent offerings to Brahmins who expressed their gratitude by comparing the kings to different gods. The Gupta king was regarded as Lord Vishnu. Army administration. The Gupta king maintained a standing army. It was occasionally supplemented by the forces of his feudatories. Horse chariots lost their importance and was receded to the background. It was not important. Cavalry was of extreme importance during this period. Horse archery also played an important role during wars. Revenue administration and judicial system. In the Gupta period, though land taxes increased, taxes from trade and commerce decreased. The king collected taxes which ranged from 1/4 to 1/6 of the produce. That means the farmers had to give half of the share to the kings. In addition, when the royal army passed through the countryside, the villagers were required to feed the soldiers. Whatever they growing in their field, they were asked to feed the soldiers. The judicial system. The judicial system was far more developed during the Gupta period than in any other period. Many laws were laid down and people had to follow the laws. The artisan guilds, merchants, and the others were governed by their own laws. Everyone had their own system of laws. Provincial and local administration. The empire was divided into bhuktis, and each bhukti was placed under the charge of an uparika. The bhuktis were divided into districts, which were placed under a Vishayapati. In eastern India, Vishayas were further divided into Vithis. The Vithis were divided into villages. The village headman gained in importance. He managed the village affairs with the assistance of elders. In urban administration, organized of professional bodies were given a considerable importance. So the local administration is similar to that of what we have right now, like in villages. See, the state is divided into different districts, right? And each district is also divided into different colonies. Likewise, even the administration system were divided into different categories, where in villages, the village headman was given great importance, like the Gambura, the headman in your villages, the panchayats. Likewise, in urban area, that is in town area, the different municipal groups, those are given importance. Likewise, there is not much difference in the administration system from the Gupta Empire age and the present age. Decline of the empire. The successors of Chandragupta II had to face repeated invasion by the Huns from Central Asia in the second half of the 5th century CE. Initially, the Gupta king Skandagupta took effective steps to stem the march of the Huns to India. However, his successors proved to be weak and were unable to stop the Han invaders. The Gupta state found it also difficult to maintain a large army because of the growing practice of giving land grants for religious and other purposes, and it was not being contributed for the improvement of the empire, which led to the loss of revenue, meaning money. The governors that were appointed by the Gupta Empire also declared themselves independent, and therefore all of these problems led to the decline of the empire. Harsha Vardhana. Harsha Vardhana or Harsha occupied the throne of Thanesar in 606 CE and ruled till 647 CE. He was the son of Prabhakara Vardhana of the Pushyabhuti dynasty. Harsha ruled from Kanauj in Uttar Pradesh. Historians reconstruct Harsha's reign based on the account left by Banabhata, who was the court poet and also the book writer of Harsha Charita. Harsha's reign marks the transit from ancient to medieval times. Harsha governed his empire in the same lines as the imperial Guptas, but his administration had become feudal and decentralized. Harsha's army was longer than the imperial Guptas and the Mauryas. He could mobilize a larger army with the aid of his feudatories. Harsha patronized Buddhism and built several monasteries and stupas. He organized a 21-day religious festival at Kanauj. Visit of Huentang. The reign of Harsha is historically important because of the visit of the Chinese pilgrim Huentang, who left China in 629 CE and traveled all the way to India. He stayed in India for a long time and he returned to China in 645 CE. He had come to study at the Buddhist university at Nalanda, which was a flourishing center of learning under the Buddhist scholar Shilabhadra. He spent many years in Harsha's court and traveled widely across the country. Under the influence of Huantang, Harsha became a great supporter of Buddhism. Huantang informs that Harsha's revenue were divided into 4 parts. One was for the expense of the king, the second was for the scholars, and the third was for officials and public servants, and lastly the fourth was for religious purposes. According to Huantang, the people during the reign of Harsha were happy and contented. They lived a simple and honest life. Pallavas. The first group of Pallavas find its mention in the Prakrit records. It speaks of King Vishnugopa, who was defeated and then was liberated by Samudragupta, the emperor of Magadha. The Pallavas followed Buddhism, Jainism, and also the Brahmanical faith. They were patrons of music, painting, and literature, but they are most remembered for their architectural monuments, in particular the Shore Temple. This temple was built around 700 CE to 728 CE. It is a structural temple built with blocks of granite at Mahabalipuram. This area was a busy port around the 7th and 8th century CE. Mahendravarman I was the first important Pallava king. He contributed to the greatness of the Pallava dynasty. Some of the most important monuments at Mamallapuram, especially those dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva, were constructed under his rule. He was born a Jain, but he converted to Shaivism. He was a great patron of art and architecture and is known for introducing a new style to Dravidian architecture. Mahendravarman's reign is marked by constant battles with the western Chalukya kingdom of Badami under Pulakeshin II. The Pallavas were however ineffective in withstanding military pressure from the Western Chalukya dynasty. Chalukyas. The Western Chalukyas ruled as emperor in the Deccan from 543 CE to 757 CE and again from about 975 CE to about 1189 CE. Their capital was at Vatapi. The reign of Pulakeshin I began in 543 CE. He captured and fortified the hill fort of Vatapi and took control of the territory between the Krishna and Tungabhadra rivers and the Western Ghats. His son Kirtivarman I occupied the Konkan coast. Pulakeshin II ruled between 610 CE and 642 CE. We know about him from a Prashasti. In the right picture you can see that is a Prashasti, meaning an inscription in praise of someone. This was composed by his court poet Ravi Kirti, which gave us information about his ancestors, which can be traced back to 4 generations. Pulakeshin evidently got the kingdom from his uncle. According to Ravikirti, he led wars along both the west and the east coast. He defied the North Indian ruler Harsha of Kannauj and defeated him. The boundary between them was fixed on the Narmada River. The picture that you can see in the background is the Narmada River. But the Chalukyas' victory was short-lived. Ultimately, both the Pallavas and the Chalukyas gave way to new rulers belonging to the Rashtrakuta and the Chola dynasties. With this, we come to an end of this particular chapter. Thank you for watching. Take care and stay safe.